The chandelier lights sparkled like diamonds. The sound of clinking glasses, laughter, and whispered gossip filled the millionaire's mansion. Everyone was dressed in silk, velvet, and glitter. Everyone except Sophia. Sophia stood in the corner, holding a silver tray that felt heavier with every passing minute. She was just a waitress, hired for the night, invisible to most, but not to Robert. Robert, the wealthy host, had been watching her. His eyes carried the kind of arrogance only money could buy. He smirked, leaned to his friend Michael, and whispered, loud enough for people around him to hear, "Let's see if the little waitress can do something entertaining tonight." Sophia froze when he turned toward her. "You," Robert said, pointing with his glass of wine. "Come here." The room went quiet. All eyes followed her as she stepped forward, tray trembling in her hands. She hated this. She hated the stares. Robert gestured toward the grand piano in the corner of the room, its black surface shining under the lights. "Play something," he ordered. Sophia's heart nearly stopped. "Sir, I'm just serving drinks." But Robert cut her off. "You heard me. Play. Don't tell me you can't. Every girl learns piano at some point, right?" Laughter echoed from the guests. Some covered their mouths, pretending not to enjoy the humiliation. Sophia's face burned red. She wanted to disappear. For a long moment, she didn't move. The silence was painful. Even Emma, another waitress, whispered to her, "Sophia, just do it. It'll be over soon." But the truth was, Sophia did know how to play. She hadn't touched a piano in years, not since Evelyn, her mother, died. Music had been their bond, their secret world. And since losing her, Sophia had locked that part of herself away. Her hands shook. Her breath came shallow. She stared at the piano like it was a ghost from her past. Robert tilted his head, mocking. "Or are you scared?" The room chuckled. The humiliation was suffocating. Sophia swallowed hard and finally walked toward the piano. Her shoes clicked softly against the marble floor. Every step felt like 1,000 eyes stabbing into her skin. She sat on the polished bench. Her reflection stared back from the black piano lid, eyes wide, face pale. Her fingers hovered above the keys. For a second, she thought she wouldn't be able to do it. Her chest tightened. Memories of her mother's soft voice whispered inside her mind, "Sophia, music is freedom. When the world tries to silence you, play." The room was waiting. Everyone expected failure. Everyone expected embarrassment. Sophia closed her eyes. She inhaled. And then, her fingers touched the keys. The first note rang out. Pure, clear, strong. The laughter died instantly. Silence fell like a curtain. No one expected what came next. The sound that poured from Sophia's hands was not ordinary. It was alive. The piano didn't just play notes, it sang. A haunting melody filled the room, delicate yet powerful, like a story spoken without words. At first, the guests exchanged amused glances, expecting her to stumble. But as the seconds stretched, their smiles faded. The music wrapped around them, stealing their laughter, replacing it with silence. Robert shifted in his chair, his smirk faltering. This wasn't the humiliation he had planned. He leaned forward, watching her closely. Michael whispered, almost in disbelief, "She's incredible." Sophia kept her eyes closed, letting the music guide her. For the first time in years, her soul spoke. Each note carried her grief, her longing, her unspoken dreams. She remembered the nights her mother, Evelyn, sat beside her, correcting her posture, encouraging her fingers to fly. She remembered the warmth of those moments, the only time she felt truly seen. Her chest ached, but her hands never faltered. The crowd was mesmerized. Emma, still holding a tray, stood frozen by the doorway. She whispered softly, as if afraid to break the spell, "I never knew." One woman in the audience leaned toward her husband and asked, "Who is this girl?" Another guest muttered, "She doesn't play like an amateur. She plays like—" The sentence trailed off. The melody rose higher, filling every corner of the mansion. Guests who minutes ago had mocked her now stood in awe, their eyes wide, their breath caught in their throats. But Sophia wasn't playing for them. She wasn't even playing for Robert. She was playing for Evelyn, for herself, for the part of her soul she had buried away. Then something happened. As the music slowed into a tender passage, Sophia's eyes opened. And in the reflection of the polished piano lid, she saw Robert's face. Stunned, pale, almost afraid. Why? Robert gripped his glass tightly, knuckles white. His confident mask was slipping. There was something in Sophia's playing, something familiar, that unsettled him. Michael leaned closer to him. Robert, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Robert didn't answer. He just stared at Sophia, as if the music was unearthing something he desperately wanted to keep hidden. The melody shifted again, softer, more intimate. It felt like a conversation, a secret spoken through sound. Some guests even wiped their eyes, moved by emotions they couldn't explain. John, one of the older men in the corner, whispered under his breath, "Impossible." His gaze locked on Sophia, but no one noticed. Finally, the last note lingered in the air, hanging like a final breath before silence swallowed the room. Sophia's hands rested on the keys. Her body trembled. She hadn't realized she was crying until a tear slid down her cheek. And then applause. Not polite clapping, but thunderous, overwhelming applause. People stood, shouting her name, their voices echoing across the grand hall. Everyone, except Robert. He sat frozen, his jaw tight, his eyes fixed on her with something darker than anger. And in that chilling silence between him and Sophia, one thought became clear. Robert knew something about her. But what? The applause roared, shaking the walls of the mansion. Guests rushed closer, eager to praise the girl they had dismissed minutes ago. But Sophia barely heard them. Her ears were ringing, her heart racing. She sat frozen at the piano, hands still trembling on the keys. Emma ran to her side, whispering, "Sophia, that was beyond words. You were like someone else up there." But Sophia wasn't smiling. She glanced at Robert. He hadn't moved. His glass sat untouched. His face was pale, unreadable, and his eyes, sharp, almost burning, were locked on her. The crowd's cheers slowly faded into murmurs. People began to notice Robert's silence. He was the host, after all. Shouldn't he be clapping, congratulating her? Instead, he stood, straightening his jacket with an unsettling calm. Michael laughed nervously, trying to break the tension. "Well, Robert, your plan didn't quite work, did it? Instead of embarrassment, you've discovered a hidden star." But Robert didn't laugh. He walked closer to the piano, each step echoing in the now uneasy room. Sophia's throat tightened as he stopped right in front of her. "You," he said quietly, so only she could hear. "Where did you learn to play like that?" Sophia blinked, confused. "My mother taught me, Evelyn." The name hit him like a blow. Robert's jaw clenched, his eyes flickering with something dangerous. He turned his back quickly, but Sophia saw it, recognition. He knew her mother. John, the older man who had whispered impossible, rose from his chair. His voice trembled as he spoke to the room, but his eyes were fixed on Robert. "That song. I know that song. Evelyn used to play it. Years ago." The room gasped. Whispers rushed like wind through the guests. Evelyn? The name carried weight, though Sophia didn't understand why. Sophia looked from John to Robert, her heart pounding. You knew my mother?" Robert's face darkened. He forced a smile that fooled no one. "Enough entertainment for tonight. Everyone, enjoy the party." But the mask had slipped. The guests sensed it. Something unspoken hung in the air. Sophia rose slowly from the bench. Her voice shook, but she couldn't hold the question back. "What did my mother mean to you?" The crowd froze, waiting. Robert turned sharply, his tone cold. "Be careful with your questions, girl. Curiosity can be dangerous." His warning sent a chill down her spine. For a moment, the glittering mansion didn't feel like a place of luxury. It felt like a trap. Sophia clutched the piano, her mind racing. Robert wasn't just arrogant. He was hiding something, something tied to her mother. And deep down, she knew. If she didn't find out the truth, she'd regret it forever. But could she handle what she was about to uncover? The party had changed. The same guests who once mocked Sophia now hovered around her, praising her, showering her with questions. But under all the noise, she felt Robert's silence like a storm brewing in the distance. He stood near the bar, jaw clenched, watching her every move. Michael whispered something to him, but Robert didn't respond. His eyes followed Sophia with an intensity that made her shiver. John stepped forward, his voice breaking through the chatter. "Evelyn was your mother, wasn't she?" Sophia turned toward him, startled. "You knew her?" John nodded slowly, his eyes misting. Everyone in this city who loved music knew her. She was a prodigy, a soul the piano adored. But then she vanished. No one ever saw her again. Until tonight. "In you." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Evelyn's name carried weight. A story the younger guests barely knew, but the older ones remembered with reverence. Sophia's heart ached. She wanted answers, but Robert's shadow loomed. He finally spoke, his voice calm but edged with steel. "Enough fairy tales. This is a party, not a history lesson." John's eyes narrowed. "Funny, Robert. You speak as though you want to bury the past." Robert's glass slammed on the counter, making some guests jump. "Careful, old man." The tension was unbearable. Emma touched Sophia's arm. "You should go. This doesn't feel safe." But Sophia's resolve hardened. She faced Robert directly. "Tell me, what do you know about my mother?" The room froze. Everyone waited. Robert's smile was thin, cruel. "Your mother and I had unfinished business. She was brilliant, yes, but brilliance comes at a cost. She chose to disappear. And maybe, for your sake, she should have stayed gone." Sophia's chest tightened. His words weren't just cruel, they carried a hidden truth. The way he spoke about Evelyn, it was personal. Too personal. The whispers in the room grew louder. Michael looked uneasy. John muttered, "So it's true." Sophia's hands curled into fists. "What did you do to her?" Robert's eyes flickered. For the first time, he looked cornered. But instead of answering, he stepped closer and whispered in her ear, low enough for only her to hear. "If you keep digging, girl, you'll regret it. Some truths destroy more than lies ever could." Her blood ran cold. And in that moment, Sophia realized Robert wasn't just mocking her. He was protecting something. Something dark. Something tied to her mother's disappearance. But what was he hiding? The mansion no longer felt like a celebration. Felt like a battlefield. Sophia stood in the center, torn between fear and determination. Her mother's memory burned inside her like a flame refusing to die. John broke the silence. Evelyn trusted someone she shouldn't have. A man with money and power. A man who used her talent for his gain. And when she resisted, she vanished. His voice trembled as his eyes locked on Robert. Gasps filled the room. Every guest turned toward Robert, their faces pale. Robert laughed. A cold, sharp laugh. "Stories. That's all they are. You think I had something to do with that woman? Please." She was a passing shadow. But his voice betrayed him. Too defensive. Too desperate. Sophia's tears glistened under the chandelier light. "She wasn't a shadow. She was my mother. And you know exactly what happened to her." Robert's mask cracked. For a brief moment, pain flickered across his face. Then anger swallowed it whole. "You don't know what you're talking about. Walk away, Sophia, before you ruin yourself." But the crowd wasn't convinced. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Michael shifted uncomfortably. Emma whispered, "Sophia, he's afraid of you. Can't you see?" Sophia felt it too. The power in the room had shifted. Robert, the man who once commanded respect with his wealth, was losing control. She stepped closer, her voice steady. "If the truth destroys me, so be it. But if it destroys you, maybe that's what you've been afraid of all along." The silence that followed was suffocating. Robert's face hardened. "You're your mother's daughter," he muttered almost to himself. "Too stubborn for your own good." The words only confirmed what everyone already suspected. He knew Evelyn, and he knew far more than he wanted to admit. Sophia's heart pounded. She didn't have all the answers yet, but she had something more powerful: the courage to demand them. She looked around at the guests, at John, at Emma, at Michael. The truth was no longer hers alone to chase. It was theirs to witness. And for the first time, Robert looked small in his own mansion. Sophia whispered softly, but firmly, "This isn't over." The chandelier lights flickered, casting long shadows across the hall. The night was far from finished. The truth was waiting, buried deep, and Sophia knew she would uncover it. But one haunting question remained, echoing in her mind as she stared into Robert's eyes. When the truth finally comes out, will it set her free or destroy her completely?